just a wee bit of background, I met Andy in 2009 and been trading for a few years, and I've sort of kept in touch with Andy over the last sort of 12, 13 years, and I've sort of followed the journey that he's been on as a business. I won't want to say that most of the challenges arrived after he met me, but that's another story. But he's an exciting tale to tell, and I hope you'll take something from it. And I think these are the experiences that are adding value in this program in terms of listening to people who've been there and done it, and taking away some good advice. So I think Stuart's going to do the slides. Is that right? There we go.
Hey, that works.
Okay, Andy, I'll let you go. You get 20 odd minutes, Andy, if that's okay.
Yep. Okay, you might have to keep me in time.
Take questions at the end.
Yeah. Cool. Right. Okay. Is that me?
On you go. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Yep. Hello. Thanks for inviting me along, Fergus. As Fergus says, I've known him for quite a long time now. You'll notice I've kind of put this up as a road trip because I'm still on it. I've not got to the end yet. But basically, I run a small adventure tourism business based in the Fort William area. We focus on water sports. Employ currently about between anything from sort of 2 to 10 staff, depending on seasonality, group sizes, etc. But Stuart, just want to flick on to the next slide. So a little bit about me. That's me actually stood up in the back of the raft, wearing some really cringy gear a few years ago with a really bad helmet on. Sorry, Stuart, there should be some bullet points that come up as well. I come from a sort of background of playing in the outdoors as a young guy. Sort of started kayaking around 10 years old. Sort of used to work in the city, had proper jobs, a bit like Stuart and Fergus. So I used to do sort of project management, sales, marketing, people management, and I found I was spending all my money and all my spare time going backwards and forwards to the mountains and the rivers, which seemed a little bit backwards. So I decided to run away to Fort William from Edinburgh in about 2001. I started working sort of freelance, started working as an instructor, sort of snowboard instructor, kayak coach, raft guide, alongside other jobs just to sort of scratch a living. Because I found as a rural area, it was really, really hard place to make money. Especially having come from the city where, I gave up a pretty good job to run away. And I'd always sort of, always thought about running my own business, but never really had, I guess, the opportunity to do it or the funds to do it. And in 2006, I got an opportunity to start my own business. Do you want to move forward, Stuart? So this is the current business that I run. So it's called Active Highs. We do all these activities. So we've got quite a large product range, also quite a eclectic mix of clients, from stag and hen groups to school groups, youth groups, charity groups. But primarily the revenue comes from tourism. Probably about 60 to 70% of our turnover will take in 8 weeks during July and August, when it's super busy. Particularly last year, in 2021. But it's taken me quite a while to get to where I am. The business now turns over, well, depending on trade, sort of between about 150 and 200,000 a year. I think Active Highs have been on the go since 2012. But before I started Active Highs, I started out with another business called Highland Activities. If you want to move forward, Stuart. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, in 2006, started this business called Highland Activities. Started that with a friend. I was working freelance in the outdoors, again finding it pretty tough to make a living. Friend of mine at the time, Ian, had a small business which I'd helped him set up, just operating sort of quad biking and clay pigeon shooting, and a little bit of 4x4 driving. So I borrowed some money. We clubbed together, started Highland Activities. We bought some water sports kit. Me and Ian had done a raft guide training together, so we bought some rafts, we bought canyoning kit, and we bought some duckies, and kind of added that to the portfolio of activities. If you just want to click forwards again, Stuart. So we started off at a small farm where we ran our quad biking, and then ran all the water activities on a mobile basis. In 2007, we got the opportunity to move the business to a place called Ardverky Estate. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that. It's pretty famous now as a film location. It's where Monica the Glen was filmed, The Crown was filmed, Mrs. Brown, and the most recent James Bond film was filmed there as well. So it was a pretty high profile estate, and it was a pretty successful operation. And then we got the opportunity to move to expand the business, and sort of this was really the start of our bigger journey, where we got the opportunity to take on an existing activity centre at a local holiday park called the Great Glen Water Park in the Great Glen, ironically, near Invergarry, and had lots of self-catering lodges. Yeah, 44 self-catering lodges. Place was marketed by Ho Seasons, so it had a real kind of existing client base, if you like, of repeat customers that would come every year, Saturday to Saturday. We'd do a little sort of high welcome speech on a Sunday morning, a bit like you'd get on a package tour holiday or a ski holiday. And then we'd take all our bookings for the week, and that gave us also the opportunity to cross-sell to the other locations. So we then had 2 locations, both on 2 trunk roads in and out of Lochaber, offering different activities. So we were able to cross-sell both centres to two different sets of clients, and it worked really, really well. So we decided that scaling up was the way to go, because obviously, more products, more revenue, cross-selling. So we started scaling up, and it's about now, I think, where we met Fergus. Fergus at the time was working for Highlands Hours Enterprise, and he was basically our account manager. And because HIE at the time were investing in sort of tourism, adventure tourism companies that had opportunities for growth, we went to them with a business plan, basically saying that what we wanted to do is replicate each centre in different locations throughout Scotland or the Highlands of Scotland to build a portfolio of branches effectively, with an end viewpoint of either maybe putting them into management, selling them on, selling a franchise, or doing something else. So we kept going. Thanks to Fergus, we managed to get some funding in 2009. And we set up a rafting operation in Oban, if you want to move forward, Stuart. So it was really just a case of, okay, we'd pick a location with high visitor numbers. So we picked Oban. In this instance, thought about, right, what can we do? Okay, we've got the river all there, it gives us guaranteed water. We can run rafting, we can run whitewater, fun yakking, and we focused on those 2 activities. And by then we now had a sort of central booking office where we would take calls for all 3 operations, manage the bookings centrally, deal with all the marketing inquiries, and basically direct customers from there. So we opened that in 2009 in June, operated it until the end of September, and then mothballed it in for the winter, and did that successfully for about 2 years. And then the year after that, if you want to move forwards again, Stuart, we also opened another operation at this place, which is Clandonald on Skye, at Armadale in Sleep. So again, massively popular with tourists, high numbers of people. We thought, great, can't fail. So we were using their tracks for quad biking. We were doing clay pigeon shooting, archery, tomahawk throwing, and sort of field sports, really. So by the end of the first year there, it didn't do fantastically, but it was doing okay. We were quite happy to accept a loss in its first year, thinking we'll claw it back because it was a big investment. So we kept going. And if you want to move forwards again, Stuart. So we thought, great, business is going fantastic. By this time, we had a turnover of 300,000 plus. So we had 4 operational bases. In fact, we had 5 because we'd also just taken over another quad biking location in Inverness, which I forgot to put in here for a few months. A place called Bogbane Farm. So we had a central booking office and marketing staff that basically myself and 2 other people ran, looking after all sales, marketing, bookings, inquiries. We built a bespoke web-based reservation system, which we could use for taking online bookings, walk-ins, telephone bookings, and we'd spec that ourselves, so it pretty much did everything we wanted within our budget. Also created a well-optimized website, which performed really well. For and effectively sold all the business, email marketing, and we had a staff team, I think, of about 25 instructors at this point, plus the office staff. So it was going really, really well. If you want to go forward, Stuart. But yeah, oops, it all went a bit wrong. In 2012, I think what actually happened is the recession from 2008 had a bit of a delayed impact and caught up on tourism in the Highlands. Quite a similar pattern actually to what's seen recently, whereas we had a bit of a downturn and staycations grew massively. And then as the economy started to grow again, people started to go abroad again and spend their money elsewhere, and our revenue went down. At that point, I also had a business partner that was really sort of struggling to get his head around the sort of vision of moving from a business which was just a one-man band operation with a few quad bikes to now having 25 to 30 members of staff, 5 different locations, and sort of the logistics of how that works. So yeah, we basically ended up having artistic differences, and between that and the downturn in trade, we ended up liquidating Highland activities in 2012 in September, which for me at the time was absolutely devastating. I thought it was the end of the world. I had a new baby, wife, mortgage, no way of paying the bills, basically. So I effectively had to borrow some money off my mother-in-law at the time, which was equally as devastating as the business going under. And started again. Basically, I had to buy back the equipment that I needed from the receivers, rebrand, and get going the next day, basically. And my business partner did the same. So we effectively split the business down the middle. If you want to move forward, Stuart, you can. So I started this brand, Active Highs. I had to pick a name really quickly. I had no money at all left in the budget for marketing. Everything I had, I'd spent on kit. Luckily, I've managed to do a deal with the holiday park, so I managed to stay located on the holiday park. And what that did is it brought me some breathing space because we had an existing client base there that were already coming for activities. And I managed to get my way through October half term, which generated some revenue, which, you know, I was able to sort of keep myself going until the following season. And over the winter, I learned how to use WordPress, built myself a website, restarted social media channels. I managed to keep the staff that I had, which is really, really good, and basically just rebuilt the business from scratch, and learned some pretty important lessons, really. So, and I'm not trying to teach anyone to suck eggs here, by the way. This is just my personal experience. I don't know if any of you guys are in business partnerships, but if you are, you know, fair play to you and good luck. One thing I'll say is they're difficult. Relationships, like any partnership, can be testing. So just ensure you've got agreed roles, you've got agreed parameters, you've got really good open channels of communication, so that you don't lose trust with each other. I think the big one there that stands out for me as well is know your demographics. When we opened our business in Skye, we looked at the footfall, but what we didn't look at is the demographics. We didn't look at the kind of people that were there. And I think it's really, really easy as a small business to look at a place and think, wow, that's really, really busy. That's really, really busy. Brilliant. Let's go in there and let's make loads of money. But it can be, you know, completely the wrong kind of people that just aren't interested in doing what you're offering. I see that a lot in places like Fort Augustus, where for 30 minutes, if you go out the wrong part 30 minutes, you can feel like you're in, you know, the most crazy place in the world, and it's full of people. If you leave it half an hour, you realise that everybody disappears, and then the place fills up again in 5 minutes because it's basically Haggis backpacker buses and tour buses coming in and out from Edinburgh every sort of half an hour. So you've got to match your offering to the people that are coming. I think there was a question as to whether we went too big too soon. I don't think I'll ever know the answer to that question, really. I think in some ways, yes, it's really easy to sort of, I think, get caught up in your own hype and look at the funding that's being dangled in front of you and almost inventing projects to get the funding rather than looking at building a sustainable, organically grown business, which I've now done. On the flip side, I think if I'd been involved in Highland activities with somebody that had shared the same vision and had the energy for that vision, like myself, I think that would have been potentially different. Minimising your debt. I mean, I came out of Highland activities with about £25,000 worth of personal debt, even though we were a limited company. We'd signed directors' guarantees on loans, asset finance, overdrafts, and when we went under, we were still personally liable joint and severally for those finances. So just be careful of what you're signing up to. And I think the big thing I've learned is simple solutions can work. You know, particularly when it comes down to things like booking systems, marketing, and feeling like you have to have a certain image. I think keeping things simple and looking at your bottom line as opposed to turnover is really important. And I think building a good team and looking after them is probably the most important part of my business now, for sure, which I'll touch on in a minute, really. I think staffing for me is key. If I don't have the right staff in my business isn't going to do well. And for any growing business, be very careful around the VAT threshold. I don't know if any of you guys are approaching the VAT threshold or, you know, or even over it, but I've seen VAT sink small businesses, particularly small activity businesses, because there's a point where you either just become a tax collector because you're not earning any more money, or it can actually cost you money. So just be a little bit, careful around the VAT threshold, and don't grow too quickly out of control without being sure that it's going to be more beneficial in the long run. Do you want to move forward, Stuart? So challenges, staffing, again, staffing, recruitment, training, builder team retention, all of those things. Really, that's my team from this year. Really good group of guys. I was in a position last year where I had the busiest year we'd ever had. I decided to employ an operations manager, who I thought was going to be fantastic, and nearly sank the whole staff team within a month. I had people threatening to leave, people unhappy. On the back of that, customers being unhappy because morale was down. So I think really paying attention to recruiting the right people for the right job, avoid employing friends, and then again investing in them, training, building a team. That was they're all smiling there because I took them out and bought them a load of drink. So that was me investing in my team, basically. And I think if you do all those things, you'll retain them. And I don't know if you guys have worked in HR or management before, but like retaining staff in the long term is cheaper, more beneficial, and more profitable for your business than replacing them every year. To that extent now, I'll actually pay above the general going rate for my staff than some companies will, and I don't go down the route of using trainees because they're cheaper. Because I need people that can go out there, do the job, keep people safe, make people happy, go above and beyond, take a few snaps, make sure they get the TripAdvisor reviews, the Google reviews, the Facebook reviews, the interaction on social media, which they all now do off their own backs. And to me, that's a free source of marketing stuff.
5 minutes, Andy.
5 minutes. Cool. I'm nearly there, Ferg. Nearly there.
Okay, cheers.
Next slide, Stuart. So again, touching on technology, I think we were one of the first, if not the first, one of the first adventure operators with Highland Activities to utilise online booking. If you haven't got an online booking system, just get one. Don't mess about. Just get it. Invest in it. Use it. 95% of our bookings are now taken online. 90% of those online bookings are made on mobile devices. Right? We hardly speak to customers anymore before they come. And just again make sure it's mobile friendly. And I don't know about you guys, I like waking up in the morning saying I've earned £1,000 and I've not even spoken to anyone before getting out of bed. It's a really good feeling. So if you haven't got a booking system, get one. But yeah, just make sure you choose the right one for you. As I was saying earlier on, particularly to Pete, there are systems out there now that will do a lot of things, but there will always be a compromise somewhere. Go out, try them, use different ones. They generally all come now with at least a month's free trial. So just go out and use them, and don't try to overcomplicate it. I know to start with, I was panicking. I always used to panic about getting overbooked and getting conflicts between activities. And then I just went down the route of thinking, well, actually, that's an opportunity. So now, generally, I will leave a lot of my availability open. And if I get an overbooking, it's a good thing. I'll cross-sell into something else. But it does need to be managed as well. And there is some time investment in an online booking system, in setting it up, in managing your availability. If you use an OTA, online travel agent, again, you might want to use a booking system which has an interface for channel management. So it will send your availability out to third-party operators. And again, social media, yeah, you have to do it. I hate it. I really can't stand it. But I know I have to do it, which is why I make my staff do it. But I think you can spend too much time on it as well. But choose the channels that work for you. I think, as Patrick was suggesting earlier on, choose the right channels. So and do them well, rather than trying to do a bit of everything really badly, which is where I've been. So make sure you're using the right ones. But yeah, that was a bit of a sort of brief overview of the last 16 years. So, but if anybody has any questions, please fire away.
Thank you, Andy. Has anybody got any questions for Andy? I mean, I think that it's a very insightful journey, Andy. A lot of businesses start out on a direction and things change. They've got to adapt. Obviously, you went through quite a sort of mammoth change in terms of what happened with you and Ian, but you started again and rebuilt from the lessons going forward, and have sort of built back, without using a cliched phrase, probably built back better than you had before, in terms of your brand and the offer you've got. And so, yeah, no, I mean, has anybody got any questions for Andy just while we've got him today?
I was just going to ask Andy, what's your most popular activity?
Whitewater rafting. Yeah, that's my cash cow. And we only do it 1 day a week when we've got water release from the dam. And then so that, yeah, the other stuff varies. It depends on who's around. It also depends on the weather. Last year, my second most popular activity was half-day kayaking trips on the Great Glen, sort of 2.5-hour kayak trips, and it was rammed. But that was just people that were there that just wanted to do something on that day because the weather was really good and there were lots of people there. So, but
that's
generally,
sorry not to dominate your time, but have you found customers' behaviour changing much? I mean, for us, they've basically been booking a lot later this year. Have you found any trends like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we last year in particular, I think because of the volume of people that were around, we were getting online bookings within 30 minutes of activities. And I was quite surprised about that, because if I was booking something within 30 minutes, knowing what I know, I probably wouldn't trust the online booking system. I'd be phoning up to make sure there was availability. But we were really close to managing our slots last season. And yeah, but yeah, you're right. Basically, people are booking far more last minute. And it's really difficult to manage your staffing and resources on that basis. We've always been really flexible on that point and kind of worked on a first come, first serve basis. And it's basically, okay, everything's available until it's not. And then once one slot gets a booking, we'll then sell that slot. We'll push people towards that slot. So, but yeah, definitely. And again, last year in particular, people that we wouldn't normally deal with were on holiday in Scotland, but that's changed again a little bit, and we started to get more international customers back again. I mean, sort of going back to 2019, we would have rafting trips in the summer, and 95% of them would be German and Dutch. Obviously, for the last 2 years, we didn't get any international customers, but this year we've started to feedback again. But again, yeah, they act very differently. And last year, yeah, we were having to manage people a lot more. But yeah, definitely the late booking thing, Peter. Absolutely.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Really interesting talk.
Thanks, Paul. Any other questions for Andy? Obviously, the slides and the presentation are going to be sort of uploaded onto the project website if you want to go back and just listen again to say any of the points. I'd just like to thank you, Andy, for taking the time to put the slides together. I know you put a wee bit of time into that. Fantastic talk, and I think that's been one of the sort of learning points for the group, is having people like yourself sharing your experiences, because who better to learn from somebody who's been there and done it.
Yeah.
So the next time I'm passing through Fort William, there's a few pints, few beers for you to say thank you